Well, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
You are welcome. Well, I like to begin with you sharing a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Thanks. My name is Fernanda Matsinhe. I am from a country called Mozambique in Southern Africa. I was born in Maputo. Although I'm now living in Cape Town in South Africa, a beautiful coastal and mountain city, but was born and raised in Maputo. I am a mother of 3 angels. You'll have to say, but I am. I work with international NGOs on monitoring, evaluation, data management, and youth development, women empowerment, different types of projects. That's what I do by day. I am a wife. I'm a daughter, sister. I recently also started running a supporting group for women, in this case in my country, in Mozambique, that have gone through infant loss and also infertility, because it's very, very close and I'm very familiar with the issue. So yeah, there are many other parts of Fernanda, but I think that's the beginning.
Love it. Absolutely love it that we are live together as you're in Cape Town. And I was saying this year I wanted to get to South Africa, and that is probably going to happen. So we'll talk offline about what I should do in Cape Town. And then maybe we can actually meet up in person too.
I would love that. No way that you'll come over without meeting.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But obviously you have a story about your angels and your experience to becoming a mother. So I would love for you to just take us back on that journey and share with us your journey to motherhood.
Okay. My journey is long, very long, more than what sometimes I like to admit, but it is. My journey starts with PCOS. I think I was diagnosed with PCOS back in maybe 2007 or 8. I can't recall a specific, because I was living in China. My diagnosis was this crazy thing that I think my period stopped, basic PCOS. I go to the hospital, the doctor does some exams, and she comes back with my results, which was I think was my testosterone. I was very high, and she just screams with the whole room like, wow, something is wrong. And it was scary, but I had no idea. And then basically I got my pills to make my periods come and regulate all the drill. And I just put that at the back. It didn't disturb me. I think I was young. The symptoms were not that bad. So I kept going. And I wasn't thinking about motherhood at the time or what were the implications. I didn't even do my research. I just let it go, graduated, went back to Maputo, started working. But I met my partner now in China. So he then moved with me to Mozambique. And we start trying, not official, but like I was no longer in taking my pills or none of those things. And I kept saying, it's not happening, it's not happening. So luckily we moved to South Africa. He moved to South Africa first and I came. Then the doctors here, in terms of fertility doctors, they're not so many in my country. I could have had a basic gynae that just gives me the pills to try to ovulate. And it started first with all the exams, etc. But I was lucky. I fell pregnant on my first IUI attempt. Yes, I was like, this is it. My baby's here. Life is happening. And unfortunately, at 20 weeks, yes, exactly at 20 weeks, I went for my scan and they discovered that I was basically dilated. They could see my sac, they could see my baby, and I didn't feel any pain or anything specific. And they just say you have to be admitted. I went into labor. And I think the moment that you go into the hospital, all the pain starts and everything, and I start contracting more intensive. And at that time, they did not even give me any option to stop my contractions. They just, you can just stay here and wait I then Google changing the position of my bed, all the options. But for 3 days, I held in until one doctor came to me, say, you know, it's the best option for you. You're prone to infections and et cetera, et cetera. And that night, me and my partner made the decision to let them induce me. And yeah, that's what happens. They induced me, and maybe 3 hours later, I gave birth to my first son. And he was born still breathing. I didn't know that I didn't ask, but the nurse gave him for me to hold. Here, they did not have these parts where they ask you, do you want to hold? Do you want to do something, some ceremony? It was simple, just, okay, that's it, take it, and then go. Also, at the moment, I was like, why should I do that? It was very scary, and I was alone in the room. But I did stay with him for, I can't recall how long. And yeah, that was it. And I went to a different room where they put me in a room with the mother that just gave birth. So an extra level of trauma because she was there with the baby. And then comes this nurse, like, that had no idea or did not read my file of what just happened. And in the middle of all this drama, it became a beautiful nurse that she says to me, what's the name? She understood, and she said, what did you name your baby? And I say, no, there's no reason. She say, you have to. And I didn't understand at the time, but later on I did understand why I had to. Running into it, I felt pregnant natural 3 months after. And this time I was like, yes, I'm gonna do scan every 2 weeks. So doctors didn't know what it was. They suspected that it could be weak cervix, but as always, there's no way to be certain that it is or it's not. So I end up doing a scan every 2 weeks and do the wait and see approach. So if I started dilated, they would do a cerclage. If not, they would continue. Then I went to a scan on Wednesday. Technical, it was all good. And then I went on Monday to a different hospital to do something else. And I was already fully dilated again, like 6 days, no warning, no pain, or no anything. And I had to go through the same process again, but at this time I was 17 weeks. So all I wanted, they say, please they have to maintain the fetus so they could do all the tests and see if it was something genetical between me and my husband that would be causing, apart from just being my cervix. And this was 2018 when I had my 2 losses. So I took time off, I guess, to grieve, to kind of make sense. My grief mechanism at the time was just to jump off and try to find the solution, instead of sitting there and feeling what I went through. I just jump off and try to find the solution. Is when I did my transabdominal cerclage in 2019 before getting pregnant. I had the option to do it pregnant, but from all the research papers and everything that I read and testimonies, groups that I went in, the most safe option was doing it before falling pregnant, and was almost 99% guaranteed that I could bring my babies home. So that's what I did in 2019. 2020 was what it was for all of us. And 2021, I kept trying. I did 3 or 4 failed IVFs, had a lot of eggs, so I did different transfers, 3 or 4 IVFs that failed. And I took a step back to reevaluate all the options, try to kind of heal my body, see what might be going wrong. And once I was ready in 2022, I went back, but I decided to take a more not so invasive. Instead of IVF, I say, let me go back to the drawing, do an IUI, which is what I did the first time when I felt pregnant. And like it worked again. So 2022, it started like this. It was around this time that February, I felt pregnant with my IUI, and I had my TAC. So I have my Transabdominal Cerclage. I was flying. I was like, this is it. My rainbow is coming home. Until when I was 16 weeks, I started seeing a high-risk doctor, and she started seeing that my transabdominal cerclage was kind of failing from the inside. Long story short, I had to go through a second cerclage. A McDonald's just down, she said, let's try. So you have two buns, you have the one in and you have the vaginal one. Of course, there's always a risk of bringing in an infection, but you gotta try. So we tried in May. I did this surgery that went well. So the next 2 or 3 weeks was just stay in bed all the time. I rented the hospital beds to my house, because in the hospital they weren't willing, because I was just 16 weeks. They were like, whatever you do at home is the same that we're going to do in the hospital. So they did not actually give me the option of staying in. So I tried to create the whole environment in my house and have all the support that I could. My mother came over because she doesn't live here. She lives in Mozambique. And yeah, I felt that I was going, but I think 2 or 1 week and a half later, I started losing amniotic liquids. And I went back to the hospital. She said, yes, you're losing, but I still didn't have an infection. She gave me the option to give up, but I know that it could replenish somehow. So I just hold on to my hope until where I could, until I started bleeding. And then I realized that I had to go back and fight for my, not just for me, but for my baby, but for my life. So I stayed 2 days in the hospital while they were trying all the options. But because I had cerclage, because I was already with an infection, I ended up having to go through an emergency C-section to prevent further infection or maybe sepsis. So on the 16th of June, around midnight, my Zane, which is I call him, my last baby, came, and he was born also not alive. He was already not alive, but I had the chance to hold him for a while. I had this beautiful nurse. I always have this beautiful nurse that somehow come into my life that stayed with me and prayed for what it seems 30 or more minutes or less. I can't recall because I was still under the effect of the anesthesia, but I was very adamant that I need this moment. I know I would need. And yeah, Zane left me on 16th of June, and I was again on the road of not understanding how a transabdominal cerclage, it has very, very high rates of success in women that suffer with weak cervix. So I don't like the word incompetent cervix, whatever word we choose. So yeah, and then my grief, healing, mix of all the things journey started to where I am today, where I can already and feel confident and say I am a mother, although the world doesn't see me as one, but I'm a mother of 3 angels.
Wow. Wow. I think that I love that you share the ups and downs of your story, because I think that what a lot of people who've had recurrent losses, especially in the second trimester, and have gone through and gotten the vaginal cerclage and then gone back and then gotten the transabdominal cerclage. A lot of people think that the transabdominal cerclage is a preventative method, but really, it's just another part of science. And ultimately, we got to trust God on every part of our journey, right? And I think that what I love about your story is that you really have been having faith and perseverance to keep going and being resilient on this journey, and knowing that you're going to get the outcome of having your a baby that's with you, that's on earth, versus being a mother to angels in heaven. So I would love for you to share more about just how has your journey through grief and loss and your faith, like how have you navigated through that? Because I think it's hard to get bad news after bad news. And then culturally, I know it's hard because, as African women, as women of the diaspora, I mean, even in the United States, we're expected to have these babies, you know? So I would love for you to share more about that, because I don't know if people really understand how culturally we're still very connected, even though you may be physically in South Africa and Mozambique, and then, you know, I'm outside of Washington, D.C., but we're still very connected on how African people are when it comes to having children and not being able to have children, especially if you lost babies. So I would love for you to share more about your experience with that.
Thank you. I think before even I share my experience, I like the point that you made, how despite we being so like far apart, we are still somehow connected. And I think it's a very beautiful one that I want to say also to you. Thank you, because I don't know how I found, I kind of Googled, I don't know what I was Googling until I found your work. And then one day I was reading there's this quote that I love that says, sometimes all it takes is for someone that went through it to be loud about it. And I definitely was so grateful that you are so loud about it. You are so loud about it to the point that you allow us to be loud about it. Imagine, like, there's no way, or there was maybe nothing else that would connect me, Fernanda, and you, Erica, in a so different life circumstance and space. But your work is not just impacting women of color, Black women in US or whatever you thought that was the space, but you're beyond. Like, if I found you, there are so many other women that I found you what you're doing, and I really want to thank you for that, because it's part of the journey, having the space and making us feel safe enough to come here. So my healing and my cultural journey, it's been so complicated sometimes, because I have like been in spaces, it all depends. I had spaces in my life where people are technical, very understanding, or they know, but I know when I'm in a room and people are kind of whispering, oh, she can't have, oh, she's that, oh, that's pity. And sometimes people are really vocal to my face. In my relationships, I don't like to talk a lot about it, but with my partner, of course, it's a big problem for his family. My family, I think, because maybe they know what I've been through, my body and everything that I've been trying, how persistent I've been, they're not so vocal. But for my partner family, it's like, get another woman, man. Like, actually, these are the words sometimes, like, you have the option, get another woman, make a baby outside, doing this and that, you understand? So, and because your value as a woman is so much associated in terms of being a mother, being able to give birth, that sometimes I find myself, no matter how much knowledge and etc., how much I equip myself with so many things, I find myself question myself, like, am I? What is it? Why can't I? So it has been hard. If I'm to be honest, it has been hard. I have lost many friendships, have lost some people they don't know, but I just chose to let it be, like they are not active part of my circle, although they think like this one, but I know that they do not help my growth or my journey. I grew enough to kind of distance myself from them. So that's what happened. Your circle becomes smaller, and then you have to be very selective. But right now I'm in a space in which it's not enough to be selective. It's not enough to this. I'm ready to be loud. So I'm very slow removing these layers of shame, because I always think, if Fernanda, I'm from Africa, I'm from Mozambique. It's so difficult for me to say this. I'm from Mozambique. And I have certain level of privilege, social privilege, economic privilege, access to knowledge. In my country, we do speak Portuguese, I speak English, speak Mandarin, I do this, I have all the access, like financial, and I go through it. I always imagine, what about that woman that have no idea to resources, to knowledge. And she's just in a small district, a small village in some part of Mozambique, going through the same thing that I'm going, losing baby after baby. So no, it's a lot, but there's still a lot of work to do in removing the shame, in trying to acknowledge that we exist. So yeah, that has been my experience.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. You can see me over here nodding.
My
gosh, yeah. I wanted to draw that connection because I think that people just think, how far we are apart, but we're so connected in so many ways. And ultimately, a lot of us have that desire of becoming parents, and how it shows up in our cultures is so different, and what people say to us and how harmful it can be, and just how the complexity of navigating this desire to become a mother along with this undercutting of not knowing when it's going to happen. I think that's something that we are all trotting, especially in this new year as we are in 2023. So I would love to share any tools or resources that you've used that has helped you navigate this journey through PCOS, through going through your transabdominal cerclage, your grief and healing, anything that you would love to share with the community.
Thanks. The toolkit box is huge. If one has to go through all of that, you start with a small box like this, but you go growing, because that's the only way to survive. For my PCOS, I found that the most useful thing that I did, and I have been doing, because PCOS does not just let you go, The moment you have a little bit of break, the symptoms come up like in your face. My PCOS was really taking care of my nutrition and be my own advocate, because many of the doctors, they simple say, go to lose 10% of your weight, you'll be fine. Go to lose 10 pounds, go to lose 10 kilos, as if it was just run or walk and you lost the 10 kilos or stop eating. But that's not how it happens with PCOS. We have such a difficulty in losing weight. And then I had to do a lot of research, join groups of women I found my good point in doing very low carb, not extreme, like do tolerate some level of carbs. I reduced my intake of lactose. I do love my cheese, but I don't do it daily. And I do a lot of supplements, but I try them all naturally. Like I do my turmeric, ginger, all those little things that are helpful. I drink a lot of peppermint that helps with the testosterone if you have this PCOS that gives you excess of testosterone. And exercise, but it doesn't work well for me, go to the gym and all these things. I mixed my walk and as a way to relax. So it's another tool for me. I kept saying to myself, because last year I had to stay like 3 months almost just doing only inside the house. So the moment I could, going for my walks was like proper therapy. It's like downloading a podcast, whatever it is, and going for my walk until you survive. You find it before was just walk, you're gonna survive it. You're gonna survive it one day after another. And then of course, for the grief, you always be gardener. It can only be. I remember that on the first time in 2018, because my first 2 losses were in 2018. Of course, I was on why me, for a very long time. And why me? What did I do? And I had already this familiarity with grief because I lost my sister when I was 18. And I lost my father before I was born because my mom was pregnant with me. So grief was not that so distant from in my life, but that moment was like igniting everything. I think I remember that I started grieving my sister. I thought that I actually never grieved the loss of my father because I never met him. But that was the year I was like, God, why? Why all of that? Why did I okay, let's settle this score. Should we, as if I could question. And then I deepened into my faith. I found groups of women that could, it wasn't specific about loss, but was about faith that they were helping me. I found prayer and meditation, and I start like doing like there is an answer, there is a reason for everything, and found ways so that when it happened again now in 2022, technically I should have gone more deep because I was so confident. I had my tack. I was just gonna pull it and I'm done. Rainbows are with me. But once it happened again, I technically did not go too much to the why me, you know, because I already had the answer. So that's why I say it can only be God. It can only be God. My ancestors, those that are like, I know that they are here. Even if I don't, I feel that they are here walking with me and saying, you know what, stand. I also felt like for the first time, on this second time, when I was at the hospital, the doctor forced me to make the decision and sign documents to go to the cesarean. I wasn't. I said, I'm going to fight even if I have to fight with my life. And at some point, I felt something that just said, let it go, let it go, let it go. I let it go with so much ease. My mom was afraid. My cousin was afraid. Everyone was afraid because it was a risk surgery. But I was so confident. I said, don't worry, I'll be fine. I'll come out. I had this extra energy and power that I knew that I would come out of it. And another big one for me, it's meditation. In August of last year, I did a 10-day silent meditation. And it's called Vipassana. It's 10 days, no phone, no communication, no talking even with your fellow students. So it was like just you and God for 10 days. All those little things that I've been hiding, not trying to confront, that was the time. And I learned, I've been kind of dipping into meditation, but that experience gave me really tools to properly learn and quiet my mind and stay present and stay in my body as much as I could, because once you're going through, you know, the fight or flight, the first instinct is to go out of your body. And I felt that's what I did most of the times, kind of run out of, like, disassociate from my body, from my pain, and just looking from the outside. So meditation allowed me to stay in my body, forced me to stay in my body, acknowledge my pain, acknowledge my sensations, acknowledge my feelings. I do recommend Vipassana to almost all my friends. I'm trying to get all of them to go, my friends, my partner. Whoever feels that is ready is something really good to do at some point in your life. It's not easy to just go 10 days off. But if you can, I would really, really advise you to do. And the last is not the last one that I would like to highlight. I did some home healing work with what here in South Africa should be called a sangoma, which is a spiritual or traditional healer. So we went through a process of doing a ritual to close and also a ritual to acknowledge my womb. So I've been doing these sessions with her. It's a guided meditation, basically, in which we are working through my womb chakras and etc. I was a bit like, you know, maybe now it's a bit too it's a bit too even being here from the continent, but it has been amazing. And I would say also, apart from the meditation, one of the very important tools, because I learned to acknowledge my womb, not just as an organ designed to give birth. You know, that's not the only reason why I do have a womb. And for a very long time, and then made me think, like, we always think about our body as just, you know, your womb. That's why it's easy. Sometimes you go to, if this is giving you a problem, go to the hysterectomy. There's so many ways. So I learned to connect with my body in very different ways and acknowledge that all my creativity is rooted on my womb. So my womb can give birth not just to a child. My womb can give birth to my dreams to my ambitions, they're all rooted in there. I'm still learning. I'm still learning to connect. And I started doing yoga as well. I think the meditation, the yoga, and the healing womb work was a lot to really connect to my body, because in some sense, I really disassociated from it, because he was the representation of what failed me. If I look at my womb, I wasn't like, this is exactly like, if you can't do this for some simple thing that you are designed for, what and why you're here for. So I'm still doing, but I had to do a lot of this work with reconnecting, accepting, touching my body as if you are here with me. Although I do feel, and I know that we are all like spiritual beings. This body is just journeying with us, but I want this body to do it with me and me to be present on it. So that is what has been really important for me in the last few months, which is getting deeply grounded, connecting with my body at all levels, yoga, meditation. My walks keep like survive. It's my surviving mechanism. Whenever I work, I get so busy, etc. I'm like, run, download your podcast, put your playlist and go for a walk. 30 minutes, 1 hour, sometimes 2 hours. I know I'm running, but at least I'm just running away from my problems, but at least it's in my own. And finally, now when I started a support group. Our first meeting was very, very, very much inspired by your work, Erica. And our first meeting was in December, just a little bit before the holidays. It was very important for me to do at that time, because holidays for us are always, that thing. And we do a virtual meeting, and where we are just sharing our stories, where I try to hold space for them to share stories, share tools. I'm trying also to develop like a database of resources where women can go, good doctors based in my country, good doctors, good nutritionists, good, etc. All the information so that people can quick access. But on that first meeting, it was beautiful, because I had this beautiful energy and power of women that they were just there to share their stories. Some of us cried. Some of us just healed each other, prayed in 1 hour. That was the most beautiful thing. There is this woman that I'll always acknowledge her, that I met, and she told me she had 12 losses. 12. And she already has a rainbow, an angel. It's called Nyeleti. It means star in our language. And I invited her. She's already kind of on the other side, but she still wanted to share. And she always tell that she changed, even her voice changed through this process. Everything on her changed through this 12, or sometimes screaming at the hospital, screaming at the doctors and everything. That's how I felt too, that the Nanda or the Fernanda that started in 2008, when I officially say that I'm trying, no, 2013, sorry, when I officially say that I'm trying to have a baby, it's a completely different one that is here with you today. So yeah, those are my most important tools. There are some other things, journaling. I didn't like, I love the journal, who doesn't? Like, and then I realized that I've been journaling like for a very long time, but now I'm more intentional about it, I would say. And I use it in very different way, prompt questions. I also have another circle of women that we meet every Saturday, random issues, all about well-being. So my tools is really surround myself with people that understand and can help me to grow. And journal, I really read. It's my savior. I look at my journals back into 2 or 3 years. I'm like, oh my God, look at you, how you were. But they help. And yeah, faith is it's the most important. Like, I know that I'm gonna have my rainbows. I just don't know how they're gonna come, but I know that I'm gonna have.
Oh, love it, love it,
Mhm.
love it, love it. You went through the whole gamut of wellness and care, self-care and self-love. And I love that that is all a part of your journey. I think that we have to incorporate that more into what we do every single day as we're navigating through life in general, but definitely as you are going through your own healing journey. So love it, love it, love it. So I would love to end on just encouraging words with our listeners as we navigate through 2023. I know a lot of people have goals of wanting to get this baby, this rainbow baby this year, growing their family, going through the treatments again. What encouraging words can you leave with our listeners and viewers as they navigate, their goals for 2023 on growing their family?
Before going directly into the encouraged words, I remember when I lost I had my last loss, I was at the hospital and my partner came, he was sitting beside me and they said, you have to tell your story. And it's very much not into social media or anything. Like I'm more like my work have me out there for certain things is very low profile. And I say to him, how tell my story? He say, I don't know, but you have to tell your story. And I said to him, I always knew that I would tell my story, but I just thought that I would tell once I have the rainbow, once I have the success, once I can show that after all of that, this happened. But since all that happened and knowing your work, knowing the work of some women, I realized that I don't have to wait the rainbow. I don't have to wait the happy moments to acknowledge my story. So me being here is to give hope for all of us that are in 2023 drawing our goals, starting again, for all of us that are still on the journey. So for all the women that are still in the journey, I want to say, do not lose faith. It will come in different ways, but it will come. Advocate for yourself always, always. Trust your gut. Trust your gut instinct, that little voice, that little thing that tells you this is it, this is now. Never shut off that voice. Sometimes it's God, the spirit, something whispering to you. And trust your body, take care of your body, heal your body. It's not mandatory to start 2023 like this is it, the rainbow will come. But you prepare your body, be grounded enough so that the rainbow finds you ready. I will always be advocate for nutrition, eat well, drink well, sleep well, do all those little things. They are compounding slow and slow. They do help for you to get your results. And most important, trust God. 2023, if it's the year of your rainbows, the rainbows will go here. There is no way that they won't be here. So take care of your health, your physical health, your mental health. Surround yourself with people that can help you. Do lots of research. Advocate for yourself no matter what. Doctors are doctors, but they don't know more than everyone else. It happens a lot. There's so many times that I wish that I knew more to advocate more for myself, but now so always advocate to yourself and be brave. Gonna make it. We always do. We always do somehow.
Love it. Thank you so much, Fernanda, for being on the podcast and sharing your story. We want to connect with you after the episode. So where can we find you on social?
Thank you. I go on Twitter by Nanda Matsinhe, at Nanda Matsinhe. It's the only network that I use much. LinkedIn, but I do share more professional on my other side of my work. My LinkedIn is also Fernanda Matsinhe, and soon I'm launching my website, fernandamatsinhe.com. I think in a month you'll see I do blog and also things related with my work, which is a lot of storytelling, but using data, which is my I'll find a ways on incorporating stories that women tell that are related with our reality. So thank you.
Thank you for sharing your story and sharing your light. This has been such a pleasure.
Such a pleasure. Thank you, Erica, for the beautiful, beautiful work that you do, and happy 2023.
Yes, absolutely. All right. We